Welcome and well met, all my fellow adventurers. Thank you for joining me here today in a brand new video. With the ending of Endwalker, to say that we've been to so many different places would be an understatement. From the frozen wastes of Ishgard to the far east, to the ancient past, the moon, and even to the very edge of creation itself, it's clear that the dev team put their hearts and souls into creating each zone, painstakingly adding even the tiniest details to make this world feel real and interactive. But during the course of my time in playing this game, I find myself enjoying going to certain zones much more than others, so I decided to go ahead and share my top 5 zones from Final Fantasy XIV. I will not be including cities or any locations that we, as the Warrior of Light, specifically can visit during certain quests like Zero's Domain in the 13th. These are going to be mentioning only the zones that we can unlock and visit at any time that we want to. But otherwise, please enjoy my top picks. Starting off with number 5, Fabnar. Now, despite it being such a new zone, I really did enjoy visiting Fabnar. I love the idea of visiting a tropical paradise, which may be the reason why I was so excited for Island Sanctuary before it came out. But everything about this zone is bright and energetic, filled with so much color. It's so unique because while we visited beaches before, it's nothing like this. Tropical plant life, as well as meeting the strange creatures that roam these parts and the Arcasadora tribes wandering about the ports and villages, I really grew to love these guys. The architecture is also something that I find breathtaking because the decorations here, they're just so elaborate and you can't help but be drawn in. Like, you just want to focus on one part, but then you notice something else that catches your eye and you just can't help but stare at it for a long time. But also because we've seen what it looks like during the final days, I mean, you don't really forget something like that. I mean, the people I grew to really appreciate and enjoy seeing them over and over, especially when it comes to Vitra, or Vashan, I guess he's called. It's a great place to visit with both Palakistan and the Great Work, and maybe just admiring the different landmarks on a beautiful cloudless day. I really do enjoy coming back here. We still have a couple more patches before the next expansion, so I do think we will be coming here for at least a couple more times before the end. Or I guess I should say the beginning of a new story. Next up with number 4 is El Meg. Now, created from the ruins of the nation of Verbirds, it became reborn as the Kingdom of Rainbows. It's full of pixies, Swath, Numul, and talking Amaro. This place is like a fairy tale come true. When you enter, you're in a field full of blossoming flowers on the outskirts of a vast lake. The more that you travel in, though, the more there is to see, such as the Numul and their hidden village with a Alice in Wonderland vibe going on, and even the faded ruins of the Amaro settlements, where the Amaro show their true care and worry for us when we visit. And that's not even starting upon the palace, with sparkling butterfly wings of light shining from the tip, and even an entire underwater kingdom of what remained of Verbirds. I do try to avoid going underwater here though, since seeing those ruins of Verbird makes me a little sad, and it just really nails home just how much was lost in the flood. Either way, I do enjoy finding reasons of coming back here to visit, even after we finish the main scenario for Shadowbringers, such as being able to visit the Dream Spinners or the more recent Anden quests. And also, I just love Faerul and the Pixies. It's always good to see them, and I do hope we get to see more of them in the future. Next up, with number 3, we have the Tempest. Now, at first, it would be hard to kind of top a fairy kingdom, but if there was one that could do it, I would say it would be this. The Tempest is deep below the ocean off the shores of Kalusha, and while there isn't much to see for the first half, it's when you reach the second half of what remains of the once great city of Amarant that really catches your eye. A ghostly city at the bottom of the ocean filled with phantoms created from someone with a broken heart. Oh my god, it was both amazing and just tragic to see. But also, when I look around this ghostly city, it really shows just how different things were. Like, the world really was a perfect paradise, a near perfect paradise at the very least. And I would love a chance to be able to explore these ancient ruins. Like, even if they're just the ruins, I would love to see those, even if it is just so tragically sad. It was here that we actually got our first look into the past of a world that's we don't know that much about, but we so badly want more information. We want to know more about the history and the lives of the people that once lived here. And we are getting little bits and pieces of it every now and again, especially with the end of Endwalker and the Pandemonium questline. But I only wish that there was more of this giant city that we could explore. Maybe even give us a chance we can track down like the ghostly form of Hythlodalis while we're here and tell him how everything ended. Speaking of the past though, at number 2 we have Elpis, the old research facility used for brand new creations before the world was sundered. I was expecting 6.0 to be crazy, but time travel never entered my mind upon learning that we were going to be visiting such a place. Elpis is a series of floating islands that's filled with beautiful new creations and wildlife, and it gives us a good look at how the world really was like, at least before Fabnar ended up nerfing the world, which is another reason that I love this place, because it's where we first got to meet Fabnar, Hades, Hythlodalis, and even other Asians such as Elpis, La Habrea, and Fandaniel. It's amazing that we get to see the birthplace of many monsters whom we either love or loathe, either or, such as the story of where the behemoth came from. Elpis is literally in a world that was nearing perfection, so how could we not be drawn to such a beautiful location? I'm only sorry that we don't get a chance to visit it so often anymore, save for hunts or treasure maps. Even the name Elpis is a name that comes from the Greek goddess, or the personification of hope, which is a bit ironic considering the state of depression that caused Hermes to become what he was. I do hope that they do include more of these lands and maybe even expand a bit more on the world unsundered at this point. I do know that we will be visiting Elpis in the next patch so that we can finish up the Pandemonium raids, so hopefully we'll see more about what happens there. Now, before I give out my top pick, there is a list of my honorable mentions. First off is the Churning Mist. Now, I love this zone mostly because of the storyline that goes along with it. I actually do enjoy visiting Mogholm, even if the Mughals there do tend to insult me for my name. And of course, there's Zenith. The palace alone takes my breath away every time I see it. The only downside is that there are so many ruins and dead plant life, and it's kind of hard to come out here and not feel sad about it. So maybe there is a chance that we could end up maybe starting to rebuild certain parts of it. It wouldn't surprise me if we get to that point someday. There's also the Ruby Sea. Now, I know I said this before, but I love the ocean, and this place is about 70% ocean, if not more than that. There's a few scattering of islands that you can step foot on, as well as Heaven on High, which is a really unique piece in the background, but also because we can dive right under the ocean and really enjoy the full view. The Ruby Sea was really our first experience being able to swim underwater and visit entire underwater settlements, which is something that I enjoyed a lot of, and I have a feeling that we will be getting some more in different parts of the world as we continue on with future expansions. Mare Lamentorum. Another one of the new areas that came out in Endwalker. I knew for a long time that we were going to be going to the moon, but silly naive me thought that it wouldn't be until the very end of the game, not halfway through the game. Boy, that was a very interesting storyline there. Either way, while it is mostly across a lunar landscape, which is something that you might expect, you can't beat the view. Not only do we get to see Aetheris in all its glory, we also have the Cradle of Darkness, the floating asteroids, the Watcher's Tower, Bestaway Burrows. It's all amazing to look at. Of course, my only downside is that until you unlock flying, it's a really big pain to try to get around this place, and of course, it really is mostly a barren landscape. Lakeland. So in Shadowbringers, this is the first place that we visit, and it's also where the Crystarium is, surrounded by the most beautiful lilac-colored trees and scattered ruins of what life would have been like before the flood. It's both beautiful and fascinating in so many ways, and I grew really attached to the people of the Crystarium and their way of life. So seeing how nature is able to change and thrive despite drastic changes is always fun to witness. And my last honorable mention is Garlemald. I know that it may seem a little strange to include Garlemald on this list, but I really did like visiting Garlemald from time to time. And while I do think that the part of the storyline with Garlemald was the weakest point of Endwalker, I do find it exciting to be able to visit the long-awaited city. The original plan for 6.0 was actually supposed to be all about Garlemald and maybe even its provinces, possibly facing off with the people of Garlemald in one final war before putting aside all negative feelings so that we could come together and join forces against the real big ending for 7.0, which was going to end the story with Hydaelyn and Zodiark. I have mixed feelings about all of it, and I do think that had we been able to stick with that storyline or even save Garlemald for a later expansion, it could have been a much bigger impact story-wise. At least that's the way I see it. But a ruined city with rampaging war machines? Me like. Okay, with the honorable mentions out of the way, we're moving on to number 1. My all-time favorite zone, at least up until the ending of Endwalker, the Azim Steppe. So, I'm not an Al-Ra character, so I can't say that my character has ties here, but I don't care. There's just something about being free to roam about these wide open spaces and encountering many different tribes that I just find so thrilling. I personally love seeing the many different tribes and learning about how each one is different from each other and just the nature of the steppe in general. It's a rough, wild place where only the strong survive, yet there's also a strong sense of loyalty and bonds that the members of each tribe share with each other. I like this way of life and how the people are able to survive despite the harsh conditions. When playing through Stormblood, visiting the steppe was by far my favorite part of the game, especially when we fought in the Nodum and became the new Han. So I guess that the entire steppe is part of our domain if you want to think of it like that, so it's no wonder I've grown so fond of it. I love the vast plains like this, and I do wish that we have a chance to be able to explore more of the mountains of this area, which I believe to be Blind Frost, though I have a feeling that we may be able to explore those later on, thanks to FFXIV did coming out and tell us specifically about the frozen isles in Othar's north. So, will we see them? Possibly. I really hope so. That's just going to be another part to check off our bucket list that FFXIV gave us. Well, that was fun to go down memory lane, and I have to say that the creativity from the dev team never ceases to amaze me. Though with the new story on the horizon, as well as new zones coming on in future expansions, something tells me that my list is going to change drastically. Right now, the most popular theories are that we're going to be heading off towards Marasidia, which I'm not against. I would love to be able to visit there, and it's certainly large enough to hold at least 6 zones, so eagerly awaiting for the official announcement for that. Anyway, that's going to be it for now. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe down below for future videos, and I'll see you next time. But until then, everyone, may you walk in the light of the crystal.